excited to have a very good friend with me today, Town Clerk Sundy Schermeye. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Christine. I'm happy to be here.
Good. And today we're going to be making Armenian rice.
Armenian rice pilaf.
Oh, that sounds amazing. And that was a special recipe in your family?
It was a recipe passed down from my, I'm sure it goes much further back than this, but it was passed down by my great-grandmother to my grandmother, who passed it down to me.
Oh, that's neat. All right, cool. So I'm just going to briefly just go through some of the ingredients, or Sundy, do you want to point out, and I'll just kind of figure out how much of the measurements that we're going to have.
Sure. This recipe I have changed over the years from what it originally began with, because back in the days...
And you have the original?
Yes, I do. The recipe,
Show everybody.
the original recipe, they didn't have cans of chicken broth available to them and other types of ingredients that we incorporate in it today, and we reduced many of the ingredients to make it a more healthy choice
like
to serve to our children. This one has 6 tablespoons of butter in addition to a tablespoon of salt. But that probably is where a lot of the flavor came from.
Sounds good, but
in place of the broth. And what's wonderful about this recipe is that you can tailor it to what you're serving for dinner. If you're serving beef for dinner, you can use beef broth for the base. If you're serving chicken or seafood, you can use chicken broth. And then they also have vegetarian broth these days. So if you're a vegan, you can also tailor it to your food choices.
Oh, that's great.
The ingredients that we use for the basic rice, because you can just make it basic rice. We are going to dress it up a little bit today, but everybody can choose their own ingredients. They don't have to use the ones that I'm using. We use vegetables that are in season. Sometimes I would use fresh peas instead of the edamame. Edamame just is available year round, so I chose that for today. But you have the fine egg noodles.
And that's about a cup of
This is
egg noodles?
about a cup of egg noodles.
Okay.
And then I use the portion-controlled boil and bag rice,
brown rice,
which you can choose either brown rice or white rice, depending again on your preference.
That's about a half a cup in there?
This is about a half a cup, which I just cut the corners off of the bags and quickly rinse them to get any sort of residual from the rice off before we use it.
And I made the mistake of emptying out the bag without realizing there were holes in there already, so I didn't have to do that.
So it serves as its own strainer.
Yes,
You just cut the corner, put it in the faucet, and let it rinse for just a moment. So we use approximately a tablespoon of butter nowadays, or a tablespoon and a half, depending on if you like additional butter, but we try and keep it as healthy as possible because we're heart conscious in my home for one of my family members. So we start off the pan, melting the butter.
Why don't we do that? We're going to walk over here, and we're going to, and also just because I did this before, this is about a quarter cup of toasted pine nuts that you had gotten, and that's one of the add-ins that you put into the dish.
That you can toast and put on top if you choose. You can use any type of nuts if you'd like, or no nuts at all.
And really, toasting them makes a huge difference in the flavor. They get a lot sweeter and nuttier, and you really can appreciate that, particularly when you have, these are kind of expensive, so it's good to
people like walnuts, or they like sliced almonds, or anything can be used, or as I said, nothing at all. It depends on your choice. It's a good topping.
I'm going to take the butter, and I'm going to put it in our pan. We'll put that on what, like medium heat?
Medium to low, because the egg noodles brown very quickly, so you want to do that slowly.
Okay.
Because we like them a golden brown, because they go very quickly from golden brown to a dark or burnt. So you have to keep an eye on them.
This will go next, right?
Yes, that goes next. I usually wait till the butter is melted, and then put them in, so that they're not frying on a pan that's
in the meantime, just talk a little bit about you're a town clerk, and you've been how many terms now?
I'm now serving in my 4th term as town clerk.
And you have 4-year terms.
I have 4-year terms, yes. So
that speaks volumes.
It does, and I've been very fortunate to have garnished the support that I have over the years. And I work with a wonderful group of people in my office,
great office.
And we get a lot done to serve our constituents.
You've gotten, I know you're not going to pat yourself on the back, I'm going to do it for you. You've gotten a number of awards and recognitions for things that you've done in the clerk's office. Do you want to just name a couple?
Yes, we have. We work closely with our IT department on a regular basis on many of our projects, because we've digitized a tremendous amount of our historic documents. along with our active documents too, to make them accessible to the public on our town's website. The historic documents, we digitized all of them, either scanning or photographing the most fragile ones in order to make them available to government agencies and the public. We put them online.
But that's neat. What's some of the coolest things you found? Is there anything that stands out
Well,
in your mind
we were recognized by the
historically?
federal government from the Office of Federal Recognition when we worked. We provided them with the Shinnecock Nation's documents
Cool.
that we had already digitized. And we
wow.
do all of those things to preserve them in the event of a catastrophe or something. We keep them in the cloud so that we could reproduce them in the event that something were to happen at Town Hall. But we were able to provide those on discs for that office to go through all the documents that they needed to in order to have the information that they needed. And they were most grateful and wrote us a wonderful letter hoping that other municipalities and state governments would follow in our
suit.
path.
Yeah.
Which was
And they've done a
wonderful
lot.
because we were very excited about that.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to make appointments to travel here and they didn't have to travel. They didn't have to, come during our office hours in order to handle the original documents. So we preserve documents and also make them accessible.
That's great.
So we've done that with all of our historic collection, and I think we've completed it now because we've been working on it for quite a while.
Since I've
yes.
known you, I think you've been talking
And
about.
the books are available online. They're searchable with OCR recognition, and those books don't have in-depth indexes, so unless you actually read the book in the past, you couldn't necessarily
where to go.
find what you were looking for
Oh, that's cool.
immediately. So it's
Awesome.
really opened up a whole new research.
Kind of tool. And you did, you were very instrumental in a lot of the happenings that took place when we did the 375th anniversary. You had
Yes.
helped with a
We had a
walking tour,
traveling
all the-
museum
Yeah, that's
that we
very
took
cool.
to all the elementary
schools.
schools throughout the
That's
town
a
of
neat thing.
Southampton.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get the children to come to the history, even to the museums or the historical societies and organizations that we have within the town of Southampton. So instead, we took a little piece of history from each of the different historical organizations we have throughout the hamlets, because they're very different from one end of the town to the
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
And we brought the history to them.
That's neat.
And it was really fascinating.
Yeah.
The young children were really in awe of what
I heard they
what
loved it.
saw.
It was very.
So-
So not. What do we do now? So I've been.
Okay, so you're going to continue to turn, lightly turn them over.
Okay.
Because it's kind of like you're browning one side as you're going.
Oh yeah, I see that. I see the
Um,
color change now. Okay. It smells so good.
like
See, it's the
this,
butter.
so-
I think they knew what they were
It's
doing
the
when they
butter
asked for
and
the
the
6
and the
tablespoons.
egg.
Yes, I'm just going to say that.
Okay.
Because it really
As you can
smells
see,
great.
it's starting to lightly brown.
Yeah.
So you'll continue to do that until all of it is
Whoop. Lost one.
and you can let it
Okay.
rest for a moment.
Okay.
Because you don't have the heat on too high.
Yeah.
So, if somebody were in a rush, they wanted to brown it a little faster, they certainly could turn the heat up. They just would have to watch it.
Okay. So the next ingredient would be the rice.
The next ingredient's going to be the rice.
Okay.
It tastes pretty good too. This is very popular with all ages.
I
There's
would love
nobody
this,
that
too.
doesn't like this stuff that I've found yet that doesn't like rice pilaf. Especially when it's homemade, it really tastes so much better. And it's fried in a,
That's one thing I never had at home. My mom never made this, so the only time I have only had it has been like at a restaurant or something. I've never had homemade rice pilaf, so
and
I'm looking forward to
it's
tasting it.
inexpensive to make and it's delicious.
yeah,
Kids
because you could
love
make
it.
this a full course or a side dish depending on what you
Well,
put in it.
and if this will serve 4 people, if you don't put a whole lot of ingredients in it, the more ingredients you put in,
It'll
the
spread it
more
out.
You can spread it out. But also, it saves well. If
Okay.
you have it for dinner, you can put it in a Tupperware container and then add a little water and stick it in the microwave a couple days later, and you have a side dish again.
Oh, that's great.
So, okay,
good if
time
you're
to add
working.
the rice.
Okay. So we'll get, and this is about, like we said before, half a cup, parboiled.
It's rinsed.
And rinsed.
Mm-hmm.
Whoop, didn't- there you
So
go.
you're just going to add this in.
Here, there's just a little bit left in the, let's get all that goodness in there. Perfect.
Okay, all that goodness in
All
there,
the
like that.
goodness.
Okay, so just stir this up
Hear
a
the
little
sizzle?
bit.
when you do these are egg noodles, right? The thin noodles?
Fine egg noodles, yep.
Fine?
Fine.
Okay.
Yes.
That's right, because there are also those wider, flat ones you see like in stroganoff and stuff.
Those are more soup noodles.
Okay.
Okay. So you just, that's kind of enough. Basically what you do is you just stir it around so that you see that the rice is also coated with the butter a little
Kind
bit.
of seals it and locks in that nice bite to it.
Okay. And the next thing you're going to do, now sometimes, at this point, you can add all sorts of ingredients as you add as the broth that you choose. You can add mushrooms, you can add, we have all sorts of ingredients over here that you can add. But now you do the broth.
Okay, so this is 2 cups.
2 cups.
Of the chicken broth is
Right.
what we're using
Today
today,
we're
but
gonna use
you could use
chicken.
whatever you'd like. Okay.
Okay. And at this point, you would add some of your other ingredients if you were to choose. You could add mushrooms.
Would you put the bouillon in now, or is that
Well,
used instead of the stock?
this is, right.
All right, so
that would
that's
be
an
a place.
alternative to use
And
2
when you
cups
use
of water
these
and one of
cubes,
the
you
cubes.
use 2 cups of water, and these, they
I use those a lot.
they
Honestly,
cost
add a
almost
lot.
the same amount as 1 can sometimes, or
so
2
it's
cans.
equivalent.
And this is, I think there's 6 in a packet, so it goes a lot further. But at this point, you would add mushrooms, you would add either cranberries and or yellow raisins. I always use the yellow raisins, that's just my preference, but it tastes so much better than using the darker ones. They're sweeter, and they clump up when they cook. So,
So it's about a quarter cup or
you just
third of a
want to make
cup.
sure you separate them so that they're not in clumps,
Okay.
because they may not separate on their own. And just make sure that, they don't have any little stems on them, because sometimes if you've ever given your children
Yeah, they
raisins,
do.
they have stems. And if you see something you don't like, you just pull it out.
So like I said, that's about a third of a cup. But I guess, a lot of this,
and
you can do
it's-
what you like.
You can put
Handful
in a
this, handful
whatever
that. Okay.
you prefer with this rice. It's so versatile that you can put a little bit of I can put cranberries in too, and mix it
I
up.
love the cranberries. Now, if you were going to do, would you put the edamame in at this point, or would you wait until the end
See,
for that?
now
Some of
things
them,
that are pre-cooked, like that, the shrimp that I have on the table and the
Right.
chicken that I have on the table are pre-cooked. So if anything, and if they have any flavoring of any kind on them, you're going to want to add it right to the end, because if you put it in now, whatever flavoring is on that shrimp, which is
gonna-
Old Bay,
Right.
That's what everything will taste
Okay,
like. So you really don't want to do that until the end. Like the
so
edamame.
this adds like a little sweetness. You can add that stuff because it plumps up and adds the
Yes,
sweetness.
yes, so
but-
you
okay.
definitely want to cook the cranberries and the
Okay.
raisins. The edamame is another thing that you would add at the end. What you
Okay.
do is, once the rice is cooked, and how you're going to cook it is you're going to cover it, okay?
Would you cover it now?
Yes,
Yeah.
you're going to cover it now, and you're going to put it on low so that it's simmering. Because once now that it's boiling,
Right.
you can put the top on and you put it on simmer, and it will boil off the water or the broth
Okay.
within approximately a 15 to 20 minute period. You do not want to stir this constantly because it will make the rice mushy. It won't be the same consistency. So we can keep an eye on that. And at the end would be the time that if you wanted to just heat up the ingredients slightly, you would just fold them into the rice and they will heat up on their own.
Okay. So you think it's ready?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
All right. Let's get in there. Oh, wow.
Because you can hear it starting to.
Yep. I'm going to turn that off.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, Cindy, while I do this, why don't you use that spatula and get that into a bowl
Okay.
over here. Beautiful. Perfect. Okey-doke. All right, so now at this point, whereas before you had the ingredients that you added while it cooked, as you said, so that you don't get the flavor of other things in there too much, now you would add really kind of just what you want as add-ins. And
Well, today,
What are you gonna do today?
say we're going to put in the chicken.
okay.
Okay, so you would just add the chicken, because the chicken's already cooked, so you really don't need to
Kind of just
heat
warming it
up.
through.
Right, so my hands are clean, I just washed them. Always have clean hands when you're
course.
cooking. And then you can always add a little bit at a time, and then mix it in lightly, so you don't want to like rough up the rice too much. And then just, you could cover it a little bit, or you can just leave it to sit, because the rice is still very hot.
Okay.
And that way it'll heat up the ingredients that you just folded into it.
Okay. Yeah.
Without
that makes
having
sense.
to cook the rice anymore.
Okay. That looks
so, you can leave
awesome.
it for just a moment, and then if you think, you mix it up and it looks like you need a little bit more green in there,
You can
or
put it
so
in.
you can just add some more, and then just once again, just lightly fold it in.
And this would be the time you could also add like fresh fruit if you wanted to. I know you have grapes
I don't normally add the fresh fruit. I only brought the grapes as a decoration around it. That's not something I would necessarily cook in the rice, because that's a raisin is really the grape.
Right. True.
That's been dried.
Good point.
Yes, so you have that flavor in there already, but it's a nice garnish.
Yeah. All right, cool. I'm going to put a little on each of these. It's going to be hot. Okay. Moment of truth.
Might be hot, so be careful.
Oh, it's definitely going to be hot. I got to get those pine nuts because that's like my favorite. Oh my gosh. So good. So tasty. I put salt on everything. This is perfect. Perfectly salted. Thank you so much. This is awesome.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming. And thank you for all the fantastic work you do in Town Hall, because I know in addition to everything else that we talked about that you've done and gotten national recognition, you've done so much for us in terms of town board meetings and making things easier for residents to get, in touch with us, in touch with our meetings, the seeing video of it through the town clerk's portal. And it's just been a great attribute and asset for all of us to be able to be that accessible to the public and our records that accessible. So thank you.
Thank you.
And you're a good friend.
Yes.
Thanks, honey.
We have modernized everything that we do in the office, and it has made
Everyone's life easier.
of the town of Southampton so much more accessible at the touch of people's fingertips at their own convenience. They can at 10 o'clock at night if they want to get into information about our different boards that we have now. They can watch videos online thanks to our coordination with CTV, and we're now actually getting a couple more boards online. So
great. That's
pretty
super.
Soon they'll all be televised, and now our town board meetings are live, which is also wonderful for some people who want immediate access to information and can't wait. So it's been a pleasure working with everybody. We have so many wonderful departments headed by so many very talented people, and we all work very well together. So we're a team. No one individual is responsible for all of the accomplishments in my office. We get a lot of support throughout the building. So
that's good. So
this one is made with white rice, which some people prefer. This one is made with brown, which a little bit different. Some people only eat brown rice. Some prefer the white. So you have that option, and they come in those convenient bags already separated for you. This one is made with the edamame, yellow raisins, and I also have shrimp that you can buy pre-cooked, but this is seasoned with Old Bay, and it, and I just garnished it with some mango. So this is very simple. You throw those raisins in there in advance, and then you add later the edamame and the shrimp.
It looks complicated though. It looks like it took a lot of time, and it's
really
great
not.
that it
It's
does
very healthy for
Yeah.
you. If you can't eat butter and you need other types of ingredients, you can also tailor that. This one is made with the brown rice. This one has mushrooms that I added when I put the rice in. The mushrooms went in, so that flavor gets into the rice. I toasted the pine nuts earlier on. That was added later as a garnish. The chicken is in the rice, chopped up and put in the rice, and then in the center. So if you want more chicken, you can dig into the center and get additional meat with yours. And this has, I think I said the cranberries already, and then I garnished it just with some grapes, which adds a little sweetness.
It looks beautiful. They both look beautiful, and they make a great presentation. They
But
really do.
everyone just needs to keep in mind that you have the base ingredients to make the rice. Then, as I said earlier, you can use beef broth, you can use vegetarian broth, and if you have favorite things that you like, you can add them and
Just make it your own.
Experiment and
which is fun in the kitchen
come up
if
with
you have
something
kids
that your
too.
family likes. I had a child didn't like mushrooms though. We never put mushrooms in it when he was going to sit at the table. It's the same thing with all the other ingredients.
No, it's great to get the kids involved also. Awesome. So thank you to our guest, Town Clerk Sundy Schermeye, for creating this for us, and thanks to all of you who came by to see us, and next time on Food for Thought. See ya.